Hi, Jerry Anderson here. You know, I get a lot of emails, and by far the most common question people ask me is about getting into film school. Many people feel that formal training and a degree is one of the best routes to a career in filmmaking. Now, I also know that many of the most successful and famous working filmmakers never had much in the way of formal training. I didn't go to film school. My training consisted of some weekend classes at local schools, networking, reading a lot of books, watching films, surfing the web, but mostly the experience I gained working on my own and other people's films. I started writing and shooting films, and each one got a little better than the one before. Despite my complete lack of formal training, my films have been in 4 film festivals, and I'm even listed in the Internet Movie Database. I've hired many film school graduates and union actors to work for me, and I've worked side by side as a peer with some very experienced filmmakers. I've never been in a situation where I was required to have a degree to work on a project or even been asked if I had a degree. I don't consider myself the most knowledgeable person about filmmaking, but my lack of formal training has never held me back from making films. I think I'm living proof that a film school degree isn't necessary to make films. Well, since I didn't go to film school, I don't think I'm really qualified to answer all the questions I get about film school. So a while ago I called a good friend of mine named Seth Himes, and I asked him for his opinion of film school. Now, Seth is uniquely qualified to talk about film school. Not only is he a very friendly and helpful person whenever I've asked him questions about filmmaking, but he really went to film school. He's a graduate of New York University's Film School program, one of the top 3 rated programs in the United States. In addition to being a film school graduate, Seth has also taught filmmaking as a professor of broadcast and as an instructor at NYU Film School. But now he lives and works as a filmmaker in Los Angeles. At the time I talked to him, he had 1 film in production and a couple of others in development. In other words, Seth Himes is as qualified as anyone I know to give advice about how to learn filmmaking and get started in the business. Now, what Seth said to me was that film school is a good way to learn about filmmaking and get some hands-on experience. But the drawbacks are that it's very expensive and it takes years to complete. And of course, he also understands that film school just isn't possible for many of the people viewing this video. He said the good news is that in the film industry, no one really cares what degrees you have. The only thing they want to see is what work you've actually done recently. Now here's a comparison that might make the situation a little clearer. If you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, there's a tremendous amount of knowledge you need to acquire before you can hope to pass the exams to be allowed to practice. Well, compared to those professions, the amount of actual knowledge and skills you need to be able to make a film is hardly a drop in the bucket. If you have an idea for a story and can get your hands on some kind of camera, you have almost everything you need to get started. What my friend Seth says is that the real qualifications for work in the film industry are imagination, creativity, and enthusiasm. Of course, you do need to learn some basic skills to get started, and perhaps even more important, and something you may not learn about in film school, is how to network and understand the business of filmmaking so you can actually put together a strategy for launching your film career. So if you seriously want to be a filmmaker and film school just isn't practical for you, don't let that stop you. In my next video, I'm going to give you some other sources to learn about filmmaking for a tiny fraction of the cost of film school and in far less time. And it won't matter where you live. You could as easily live in India, Australia, Nigeria, and learn what you need to know about filmmaking. Until then, I'm Jerry Anderson. Happy filmmaking.